Our second witness today is Mr. Robert Falcon Ouellette, member for Winnipeg Centre, who really initiated this whole process. Committee members will recall that the Speaker's ruling of June 20th, 2017 was in response to his question of privilege concerning the use of Indigenous languages in the House. So thank you for being here, Mr. Ouellette, and starting this process. It's my understanding you'll be delivering your opening statement in Cree. As was the case at our last meeting, we have arranged simultaneous translation in Cree. So thank you very much. This is very exciting and historic, and you may proceed.
Tanse. Ni wako makantek tanse. Ni mia tane awapam tikuk. Ni hi yao wi nan. Kiwani tanan. Mati wi chi hinan. Ni ki akipi mo tainan. Mitoni wahi yao. Kayas pi ponik. Niki papim otan, makwak eta kayak, kistaski nao, oskina keni, ikiki yo kenan, ni wo mitan nao, peyak, oske inin kana, niki kakiska wo wak, michita wak, ni wi yawak, ni wako mananak, Dakota, Oji Cree, Aishna Pewak, Apita o ko si sawak, Ekwawe mistis ko sawak, Nikipe tawawak, Ininwak, Ochawak simi sowak, Kaweask, Tapi mati sisik. Oma kasi waskakan, Kita yeyan soni yao, Nistam kaki apian, kiki wita mawak. Atos kiwin ase ki pimpano, o ki ka yao, Canadians. Nama mitoni, siko nik, keyeask. Tatoso ke sewak. Uspin Canada, kaki masina hak. Asta makewin. Keweask, tawako toyak, kiwako tonen, moya keweask, kispano, keweask ka ki to tenan. Awi ka kawe, chi mitan. Tawi chi hiyin, mina, tamani chi hiyin. Treaties are about respect and brotherhood. Indigenous peoples have always had treaties. The Cree and the Blackfoot made treaties using common sense. There was to be no fighting in the winter as it was too cold and not good to move women, children, and aged populations from their homes to different locations at this time. If one tribe made war, they sought out the other chief and explained the reason they were making war. Quite often it was the young warriors had too much energy and were bothering the whole camp. The old people knew the best way to do things was to send them off to war against the enemy they knew. The two chiefs would talk, and one would be given time to move the women and children and old people. It worked for them, and later in peacetime, they would talk about it. The creation stories we tell are about Wesechak, are about treaty. The world treaties are about water, earth, air, fire, and of course, the Great Spirit. For instance, when a child is born, the mother's water breaks, and this signals the child is to be born. He then gets his first breath of precious sacred air, and he is a live human being. He is then wrapped in the warm hide and fur of an animal and enjoys the warmth of the fire and life-giving milk of his mother. Soon he is playing with the other children outside on their own land, which happens to be Canada. When the Creator finished creating the land and seas and air creatures, he called everyone forward and told them to ask for the gifts they wanted for themselves to have, and thus he made treaties with all life on earth. Many of them asked to serve mankind, but were warned about mankind and what he would be like as the best and worst of all creation. They accepted and understood his warnings. For their understanding and sacrifices, they were granted a place in the hereafter. They would and should be honored by man in ceremony, which Indigenous peoples still do to this day. It is for these teachings we respect the water, air, fire, and water in a sacred way. They are included in all our prayers and ceremonies. It is a good way to live. We all have our own languages, understandings, and ceremonies. As Indigenous peoples, we respect the earth and all the children of the feathered, fur, scaled, two-legged, and four-legged and winged citizens. We know mankind is the only creation that breaks treaties continuously. The others have never broken their sacred treaty with us. By our own common sense, we must pray for the earth and all who dwell here. For the past 100 years, for over 100 years, we have signed treaties between our different peoples and countries. The original idea was not about subservience, but rather respect. Languages must be used to be useful, to be used by our children in schools, in the homes, and in the rest of society. Our languages must be on TV, so we can see and understand why, where, and when, and see what is happening in our parliament. It is important to have language. I saw a written sign on the entrance to a graveyard in Lac La Ronge in northern Saskatchewan, which said, "If we could not as brothers live, let us here as brothers lie." Man, I talked about women, man is represented as fire, and interestingly enough, women are represented by water. With just a single word or a single glance, she can destroy or elevate us. Personally, I would rather be a brother to my fellow mankind than perish in a dirty flood of prejudice, jealousy, anger, and fear. Language can convey respect and meaning. It represents culture and it defines who we are, self-identity. It is about learning, education, and knowledge. Elder Winston Watney asked me to talk about how language is important and related to our belief structure. There are 4 elements: water, air, land, and fire. Language is related to these 4 elements. When you take a word in Cree and break it down, there are additional meanings within that word. Let us take water. Water is women, life, connection to all of creation. It is beauty itself. Let us look at air. Fresh air. Dirty air, we all have an impact. It all has an impact on how healthy we are. It is life, breath. Animals fly in air. We need good air to be healthy. If we look at land, we live, we die, and when we die, we become the land, and the land is our relatives. It feeds the grasses, it feeds the bison, it feeds us. It is us. And if you think upon fire, fire is also life. It keeps us warm, to cook, to survive. It cleans the land. It is also men. It works best with water. Let us take one word of the Cree language, Nika Mon, which means to sing. Nika, Nigan, in front, is its meaning. Mun, or mo, to eat. Nika Mun, therefore, means to be fed song as it is. Or if you break it down further, it could mean to be fed food by the one in front, and this could also be the Creator. To take it a bit further, it means whether whoever is in front is feeding us, and this is where the greed for money becomes our sustenance, and this has quickly become a starvation diet for us all, of nature and mankind too. Do we have the responsibility, the ability to respond, to learn and save ourselves, our children, our mankind, and our world? Without language, who are we as individuals? We become without a past, unable to understand the thoughts of the past, nor able to understand our ancestors in ceremony. They, in return, are unable to understand us when we can't communicate in our own language. Modern Parliament has a role to play in helping Indigenous peoples. You can add to the scales of justice, ensuring that our Canadian languages, Indigenous languages, do not become museum pieces relegated to the back of anthropological shelves on linguistics, but living, alive, and adapting to a modern world. yet they must always remain spiritually connected to the past. I dream of a moment when the Canadian state, which has for too long tried to ignore and terminate these languages, is part of the process in Parliament of breathing life into our common languages. So, Tapwe, thank you very much.